Okay, boys and girls. So, we are finally learning about Harriet Tubman. Now, it's so exciting because every time we get to dig into our Black history, it really and truly is a privilege and it really is so inspiring, especially with what's going on in our world today. We want to celebrate Black lives as much as we can. So, Minty is the story of young Harriet Tubman. Let's see how she went on the journey to become the person who we know her as today. As I go along, you're going to see me circle some words that you guys may not know. There are new words that I'm going to define in the slides after the story. So look out for the words that I circle. Minty, a story of young Harriet Tubman. Minty, I know you hear me. Get in here, gal. Crouching in front of the big barn door, Minty listened. Mrs. Brodess sounded angrier than usual. Get in here, I said. Don't make me come and get you. Minty giggled and then stuck out her tongue just as far as it could go. I'll come when I'm good and ready, she thought. But she didn't dare say it, not out loud. That would mean a whipping for sure. Pushing back the barn door, Minty crept inside. The barn was her favorite hiding place. The dray horses watched, restless, as Minty thrust her arms into a large pile of fresh hay. She dug deep down, all the way to the bottom, and pulled out her rag doll. Esther Lavinia Louise was a sorry sight, with one foot missing and a pair of cracked buttons for eyes. But Minty loved her just the same. Now listen, she said. Then in a low voice, Minty started to tell an old Bible story, the way her mother had told it to her. And then the shepherd boy, David, he picked up this tiny little rock, took aim, and sent it flying. Hit the old master smack in the head, killed him right there in front of everyone. Then they had a big old party afterwards, and David got to move into his big house with a long table, and he was never hungry or nothing again. When the story was finished, Minty hid Esther back at the bottom of the haystack. It was getting dark, and she had to light the fire, trim the wicks, and set the table up at the big house. The evening, that evening at supper, Mrs. Brodess was still angry. Why didn't you come earlier when I called? I had a mess of peas that needed shelling. Minty looked down at her feet. I didn't hear any call. Don't lie to me, girl, lest you want a whipping. Next time you better jump to when I call. Mrs. Brodess shook out her cloth napkin. I'm hungry. Serve the potatoes. As Minty reached for the bowl, she accidentally knocked over a pitcher of cider. Mrs. Brodess jumped to her feet. Now look what you've done. Angrily, she turned to her husband. Do you see, Edward? It's spite, pure and simple. Well, I won't stand for it. I don't want her in the house any more. From now on, she's a field slave. That'll fix her. Then, crossing the room, Mrs. Brodess opened one of the high cupboards and took something out.